Good morning, listeners. Welcome to tvafrica.com. Your host is BMT, aka Sering Banjul, broadcasting from Cape Point, Bakau, in the Gambia. Today, we start or continue episode 1 on series 2. The last time was series 1 on the environment, and I gave the synopsis of the roadmap from Stockholm to Rio, where Stockholm was the beginning of the discussion on environment and sustainable development, where you have the Broadland Report, our common feature, all that came to Rio. Today, series 2 is about water. Water is important, extremely important. We all know about the importance of water. But I would like to do the same as I did in the environment, give the background of the water debate, where it started and where it has, come, and what we are discussing since 1992 has been discussed. The foundation was laid. The water debate started in 1992 at the Dublin Conference in Ireland. It was known as the International Conference on Water and Environment, known as ICEE. This was a pivotal UN meeting that brought about leaders all over the world, scientists, politicians, to discuss the global water shortages, pollution, and developmental issues. We are talking about 1992, and scientists have begun to alert the politicians that there will be global water shortages. Either we are overusing our aquifer because of high population growth, or we are not investing in water infrastructure to bring water to the people, or we are not managing water sustainably. So the Dublin Conference was extremely important. That's the mother of all conferences on water. The Dublin Conference produced what is known as the Dublin Statement. The Dublin Statement is extremely important. What was discussed in 1992 and came about with the Dublin Statement are still relevant today. What are the Dublin statements? There are basically 4 statements. That fresh water is finite. That means that it's not ad infinitum. It's a quantity that can finish, and therefore a vulnerable resource essential for life, development, and the environment. Something that is finite, you need to manage it wisely. I always give example that when you are giving a store to manage, or when you are giving a budget, that budget is finite. The goods in the store are finite. They will get finished. Therefore, you have a plan. You have to have a plan for the management of the goods in the store. As the financial manager of a ministry, it's your responsibility to manage the budget, because it's not an infinite budget. You have very limited resources, so you have to manage it wisely. We always say that managers, you don't have to be a scientist or a doctor or whatever. You should be able to manage the limited resources, the human resources, the financial resources, the capital resources. So in Dublin, the 4 principles, number 1 is fresh water is finite. And this vital resource that is essential for life, for economic growth, for environment, needs to be managed. And the principle number 2 was, and is still relevant, that the participatory in management of water should be all-inclusive, participatory approach. It cannot be top-down. It cannot be bottom-down. Everybody should be involved, be it at the national level, be it at the sub-regional level, being at the international level. Management should involve users, planners, and policymakers at all levels. You cannot be, I just give an example, it can be Gambia or Senegal or anywhere that management is at the level of the Department of Water Resources. The Department of Water Resources should go to the users, if it is at the village level, to talk to the villagers, their representatives, or their opinion makers, if they are going to dig a borehole, and discuss with them where that borehole should be built and who should manage the borehole, not the engineer from the department to go and manage it. Therefore, if the villagers or the users see themselves as part of management, then they will take care of it. But if you bring outsiders, so-called experts, to come and manage the water resource in that community, being a watershed, they will see it as outsiders. They are not part of it. What they say, they should see themselves in it. It's just like forest. That's why the Department of Forestry in the 80 introduced community forest management, where the the villages, the community are involved in the management of the forest, not the Department of Forest sitting at Nyambai or Abuko or Banjul saying no hunting, no cutting, no this. No, let them be part of it. To be successful, they should be part of it because they are the one using the forest. And if they know that they can only cut dead woods, they will do that. But you cannot impose and say only dead woods you're sitting in Banjul. Therefore, participatory approach is one of the principles of the Dublin statement. Then the third one is role of women. Women play a central role, a central part in the provision, management, and safeguarding of water. Let's take example, our communities here in Gambia, even we in Banjul, during colonial time when you have tap water, certain streets, our sisters were the one going to fetch water, not we, the guys. That was role given to the women. You go to the village also, the women are the one going to the watering points, being a lake, being a river, or being whatever it is, women that trek kilometers to go and fetch water. And that is even dangerous because there's examples in Africa, the vulnerability of women moving from the village to go and fetch water. We have seen criminals, cutting the road, trying to get whatever they can get from the women, etc. So the role of women should be safeguarded. They should participate. They should be part of decision makers because they are the one fetching water. Traditionally, when they had wells, the women will go to the well to fetch water. They will spend hours. While the well, as a central point, has a socio-cultural aspect. That's why the women meet and they will do their village gossip. It is a meeting point for women to talk about their lives, what happened in the village, etc., etc. I don't want to go into details, but that's what was happening. And they were looking forward every day to go to the well, and they'll convert there. We sit at home saying, wow, my sister has gone to fetch water, but she should have been back. But what happened is that's where they do their discussions, be gossip or what. Why the men sit at the bantaba and do their own gossip. So the women who fetch water, they play the central role. Therefore, they should be part of the management of the water. In Gambia, I remember in the 80s when we had village water management committees. And we had women in those committees. Before, the women were not in the committees, but they were part of the committees. And up till now, because they play a very pivotal role in water, providing water for their offsprings. And the fourth principle is the economic value of water. Water has an economic value in all of its competing uses and should be recognized as an economic good. This is extremely important. Water was considered a social good, like air. Therefore, it has no value, it's free. Air is free, it's provided by nature, and we breathe it, we don't pay for it. And water was viewed as that it is free, it's provided, it has no economic value. Therefore, it was not managed as an economic good. But this principle is telling us that water has value. Water has economic value. Once you value water, then you will know the important it plays in our economy. Like, for example, I remember when we used to go to Minister of Finance to present our budget for our water resources. When you present a budget, if it is that high, the minister will always tell you, come on, you people, we give you a lot of resources for water, but you don't bring anything back. We would rather give this money to agriculture. When we give them, increase their budget, they buy fertilizers, and the output of the farmers is being sold, and we have foreign exchange. But water was not seen as that. We do not pay for water. Even, there are two areas in water. We have urban water supply and rural water supply. Urban water supply is in the urban areas, like Banjul, Serakunda, or the greater Banjul area, where you have meters put by NAWEC, and we are charged so many dollars per liter. But it's so small that we are not actually paying for the water. We are not paying for the water because we haven't valued the water to know what the value of water in dollar cost per cubic meter. What we are paying for is the infrastructure, the piping that has brought the water from the source to our houses. So now the international community has started talking about valuing water. Up till today, this was 1992, we haven't come out with a figure of what is the value of water. The debate is still on. So you can see that these four principles of the Dublin Principles 1992 are still valid today. That fresh water is finite, that there should be a participatory approach, and the role of women and the economy. These principles are fundamental to integrated water resource management, IRRM. Those in the water business, or we in the water community, we've been talking about IRRM, Integrated Water Resources Management. Since 1992, it came out. So we are debating or discussing IRRM. We have learned a lot. We have seen the positive and the negative. There was a time that if you write any project on water, it has to be part of a IRRM, Integrated Water Resource Management, and the debate is still on. So these are the principles, the four principles. But outside of the principles, we have also what we call the agenda action. Because every principle, you need an implementation plan. Agenda action. What are the agenda action of the four principles of the Dublin principles? 1, alleviation of poverty and disease. Poverty has been discussed over and over and over. In my last broadcast, I told that poverty was defined as anybody who lives under $1 per day is poor. $1 is like, in Gambian times, It's like 70 to $72 a day. What does that mean? It means that a huge percentage of Gambians are poor because they are living about $50 a day or less. So the action plan was how to use water to alleviate poverty and disease. We have done some work and statistics to say that over 65% of inpatients in hospital beds are there because of waterborne diseases, malaria, typhoid, you just name it. You know, these diseases are caused by, they are water related, mosquitoes live in water, typhoid, etc. So, how to use water to alleviate poverty? That will be in agriculture, even in energy, irrigation, hydroelectricity, hygiene for diseases, giving people access to fresh water. 1992, we're talking about alleviating poverty and disease. And the SDGs still talk about poverty alleviation, still talk about access to clean water. So what was relevant in 1992 is still relevant today. And the action agenda number 2 is protection against natural disaster. How can we use water to protect against natural disaster? We know in the past 20 years we had a lot of natural disasters and manifested by water, floods, drought, tornadoes, you name it. How can we protect water against natural disasters? We have a lot of dams or barrage. When you have natural disaster, like hurricanes, how can we protect these? That's the action agenda number 2. Number 3, water conservation and reuse. That is, how can we conserve water and reuse it? It is still relevant today. We call it the 3 R's: retention, reuse. I have forgotten the other R, but you conserve the water and you can reuse the water. We call water recycling. Wow, that's the other retention, reuse, recycling. Like most hotels, the water that is used for in the shower goes straight to the septic tank or to the soakaway. But what is being advocated here is to have a big tank where all the water gather and you retain them there, recycle and reuse the water. And it's still relevant today. 1992 to now is relevant. The 4th is sustainable urban development. Sustainable urban development, now 1992, I think Banjul was the only urban area. Now you have Banjul, Serekunda, Lamin, Birkama, Farafenye, Basse. These are all urbanized. When you have, urban development, you use more water. The constructions, the people. Go to Salaji. Go to this place, I went there the other day, Njambur. These were remote villages. Jabang. These are satellite towns, urbanized. When they urbanize, you have running water. Before, all you had were wells. Now you have running water. Therefore, you need you need sustainable urban development and how to use water. Number 5, agricultural development and rural water supply. The president of the Gambia, before the time of Sadauda Karabajara, it was called Meet the Farmer Store. Yaya Jama came and changed it to presidential tour. Meet the Farmers Tour is to go and talk to the farmers about agricultural development. And you cannot have agricultural development without proper water supply, being irrigation, being drip irrigation, being high tide irrigation, etc. So water for agricultural development. Currently, we are even talking about the nexus, which is water for agriculture, water for energy, water for health, and water for hygiene. So you need to mix all of these. You cannot treat one outside of the other. You can have one water policy for agriculture and have another water under the management of the Ministry of Agriculture, and then have another water policy by the Ministry of Water Resources. It should be integrated. It's part of the IRRM, so that there's a holistic approach to use of water for rural area and for rural water supply. As I mentioned, you have urban water and rural water. When we are talking about the SDG, meeting the SDG, we said, in Africa, we are meeting access to water by 80% in the urban area and 60% in the rural area. So therefore, we need to do a lot in the rural areas. But the rural areas have been neglected since colonial times. I believe that they should only be having wells, and the old traditional way of getting water from a well, move from there to Indian Mark II. Now we are getting to boreholes, using solar to pump the water. We need to bring water to all of our population if we are to meet the SDGs that everybody have access to drink water. The sixth action agenda is protecting aquatic ecosystem. What is aquatic? Aquatic is water. What is around water bodies, the ecosystem there. We need to protect that because it has a lot of life supporting system. Even when you take the mangroves, that's an aquatic ecosystem. You come to the Tanba aquatic ecosystem. When you go to around Basse, I remember when I was a kid, used to go there for holidays. When you go to CFRO, there was what they call a tributary in locally called Wayo. We used to go there for swimming. That's aquatic ecosystem. Here also in Banjul, we used to go in front of government house. We used to call it dig, and that's an aquatic ecosystem. They are disappearing. We need to protect that. So 1992, that's one of the things that came out of the conference, and up to today, we are talking about that. The 7th action agenda is resolving water conflict. This is my favorite, resolving water conflict. There is the belief that the Third World War will be because of water. Now we have seen what is happening in the Middle East, the war. Although it's not water, but it's not yet World War. It's just regional, it's about oil. But the conflict will be on water. How to resolve it? It is called hydrodiplomacy or water diplomacy. That is why AMCAO and AU encourage having basin organizations like the OMVG in Senegal, for Senegal, Guinea and Mauritania, Gambia River Basin, like Gambia, Guinea-Bissau, Guinea-Conakry, and Senegal. You have Liktatou Gourma in Burkina Faso. You have the Limpopo. You have the Nile. You know, there are 63 basins organizations. All of them have their own protocols. That is how to share the water, how to avoid conflict. And that is being encouraged. And the best example globally is OMVG and OMVS. Water is vital. We have seen what's happening between Ethiopia and Egypt and Sudan. When Ethiopia decided to build the dam, Egypt said over their dead body. because Egypt is downstream. So anything that happens upstream will affect them. But there need to be a diplomatic solution, and they have done that. The eighth is the enabling environment, an environment where the water community can work and bring results. If you don't have the enabling environment, you cannot work. For example, if you go to the Middle East and Iran, where you have war in that area, that's not an enabling environment. You cannot do any water management there. You cannot help the people. Now tanks are going to give water. You need to have the enabling environment. The ninth one is knowledge base. I like this because I remember I always say that Leopold Sédar Senghor used to say that country is run by people who have the knowledge. In Wolof is real ham moko dohal. So in water is the same. We need to have the knowledge base. We need to know where the water is. We need to know the quantity. We need to know how to manage it. The other day I talked about equilibrium, that the economists, when in a graph, when you have the x-axis and the y-axis, supply and demand, where they meet at the middle, that's the equilibrium. That's where the best pricing would be. In water is the same. We need to have all that information, and science gives us that information so that we'll know how to manage. And the 10th and one is capacity building. Capacity building. You can have all the financial resources, but if you don't have the people, the capacity to manage the water resources, you are doing it for nothing. And that's the problem we face in Africa. And a lot of countries, we lack the capacity. We need to train up our people. They need to understand, how to manage water sustainably. The AU is doing a lot. AMCAO is doing a lot. Global Water Partnership is doing a lot. AFWA is doing a lot. IRWA is doing a lot. IWA is doing a lot. All of these agencies are trying to address all of these action plans and the principles. You see, I'm giving a historical background, and I'll be developing this by the time we get to, I don't know what series that will come up to the Water Vision, the Africa Water Vision 2063. AU State has just approved the Water Vision, which call for every African leader, nation, community, and partner to embrace the vision and policy. Let us invest boldly, govern inclusively, innovate, relentless, and act collectively. Together we will transform the fundamental resource, water, into an engine of economic growth and sustained development, and a catalyst for continental unity and prosperity. That is a strong statement that came out from the AU. We are on water. I've stopped at the Rio, where it addressed water and other things. So I've started in the history of water. I'll be developing it from 1992 to the Water Vision 2063. It's a long journey, but when you go through that journey, you'll understand exactly the problem, the challenges, and the solutions. It is very important because Africa, there are about 60 people going to bed, die every minute because of lack of water. 60% of our population in hospital beds are there because of waterborne diseases. Therefore, we need to invest in water. We cannot depend on the donors to do that. I'll stop here and thank you for listening. And if you like this video, please subscribe and follow this series. I will change on Friday. Instead of what I planned to do earlier announced, it will be on what I call greening Gambia, or keep Gambia green. That is on forestry, ecosystem, biodiversity, because when I announced, the water community became very happy and said, oh, good, you'll be addressing water. The environmentalists became very happy and you'll be addressing environment. And the forest community said, hey, you are leaving us behind. I said, well, I'll include environment. No, we want our own. I said, I've seen this before. When desertification was not part of the GF, and GF said, the desertification committee said, no, we want our own window. We don't want to be included. In the MDG, when water environment, water was not a particular goal, was included in the goal of environment, the water community said, no, we want our own. The same thing in water and sanitation. We used to say water resources include sanitation. The sanitation committee said, no, don't marginalize us. We want our own. That's why you have now water and sanitation. I mentioned the WASH capital, WASS, water, sanitation, and hygiene. So all of them have their own components, and I'll be addressing all of them. Thank you very much. Hope that you like this video. I'm trying to share my experience of over 30 years in this field. Merci beaucoup, and goodbye.